Praise the Lord. Welcome to our Bible study from our AGMI Church, Mugaper, Chennai. It's been a very good evening, and I thank God for meeting you all through this Bible study. God has given a wonderful subject for us to discuss. We've been hearing into this topic of dawn of abomination. The dawn of abomination. And in this topic of dawn of abomination, we already in the previous episode we saw the rise of Nimrod. Today we'll be analyzing, or we'll be talking about secrets of the cities. We'll try to, we've been all this while trying to track down from where this abomination is starting. What is the starting point of abomination? Because in Revelation 17:5, as it reads, "And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth." We see that Babylon is being pictured as a woman, and it's been written on her forehead that she is a mother of harlots and mother of abominations of the earth. And in 18:2 Revelations we see, he gave a mighty shout, "Babylon is fallen, that great city is fallen. She has become a home for demons. She is a hideout for every foul spirit, a hideout for every foul vulture and every foul and dreadful animal." From this we come to know that Babylon was a hiding point. It was hiding all evil spirit. It was a birthplace. It was a home for the demons and for every foul spirits and vultures and dreadful animals. We see how dreadful and how this Babylon was nurturing all these abominations which God hates, and God doesn't like all these sorts of behavior of those people. And again in Revelations 14:8, as it reads, "A second angel followed and said, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries." We learn that it was a mother of all abominations. She was a mother of harlots. And it says, the meaning of this is, it says all sorts of witches, all sorts of sorcery, all sorts of things which God hates was given birth, or it found its existence into the world through this Babylon. This Babylon was the main place of Satan, by which it took control of the whole of earth, and it took control of the manhood. It took control of all the humans as a whole, and enslaved them. We saw in the previous session how the man of Nimrod rose up, and we was enrolled to crack open how exactly this abomination started in this world. What are the deeds, or what are its starting point, and how it came into existence, and how Satan worked to build his empire on this earth. We see that in the book of Genesis, in the starting itself, God created this earth, and then he created his pinnacle of his creation, man. He created Adam, and he gave all the things of the earth for him to hold and to be as a king. He gave it everything for him to be the ruler of this world. But what happened? Eve was deceived by the Satan, and Adam sinned by eating the fruit. So what happens there is man loses his kingdom. Man loses the authority over the whole of this earth which God has given him. God gave him all the rights and all the authority. He made him the ruler. He made him the king of all this whole earth. He gave everything for him to take and enjoy. But what Adam did, he lost it to Satan. And what happens there is his rights and authority was lost to serve this serpent, that is Satan. Satan now becomes the ruler of this whole of earth. And he becomes the ruler of this whole earth, and he starts to build his empire. He starts his ways of thinking and his ways of adultery, his way of abomination, and everything he does to enslave the pinnacle of God's creation, human. He builds his empire so that all these torments, all sorts of tortures comes to man. And people think that as though the Satan comes like all these demons, how they picture in these pictures. If you see in the movies and all, they shows the demons and the spirits and evil things to come in like a smoke. It just fills up, and then a terrible image appears with all those teeth and horn and etc., on all those things. But you see, Bible says that Satan, Lucifer, he is a very beautiful person. It says he is very beautiful and he's very talented in music. In Isaiah you can see that. That sort of person is Satan. He's a very beautiful person. He's very talented because he was one of the main angels of God. So you cannot imagine him to be an ugly or a weird or some sort of an awkward looking person. So similarly, we cannot expect his ways to be just as though you can see by those acts itself. We cannot judge him that this is a wicked way or this is a way which is evil or something, that because all his ways will be so sweet. He betrays people, he deceives people. He makes things as though all things are sweet. He makes things as though all things are righteous. He makes things to picture as it's legal. That is how he deceives all these human beings, and that is how he has created everything in this world so that we humans are like easy, soft target for him. That is how we can anyway trap someone. If you want to trap someone, there are people, what they say is it's a honey trap. They make honey and it just be like a sweet honey, so that everyone comes and licks it, or everyone whoever likes it, it be so sweet, so beautiful. Satan is a wicked person. He is a very wicked person. He cannot create things, but he can confuse things. He cannot make anything of his own, but he can create lies of his own. He can twist and turn everything. He can put things here and there, jumble it up, and then say that, look here, this is so sweet. Like he betrayed or he deceived Adam and Eve. And Eve he betrayed, he deceived, and made Adam sin, and Adam sinned. Now we are looking at Babylon. We saw in last session that all these riches they earn from this Babylon. All this riches, this technology, everything comes from this Babylon. And many may say, no doubt, brother, are you against this technology, or are you against the developments of this nation, or are you against this money, or are you against this? Because I'm not against all those things. Because in our church, we teach prosperity. And there are one segment of people who say if you teach or if you preach prosperity, they goes to the extent of saying that we are prosperity preachers. We never said like that, or we never endorse that sort of a preaching. But God has given prosperity. He has given prosperity. Similarly, Satan is the ruler of this world, and all this technology and all these sorts of government segments and all these sorts of these financial instruments and whatever technology or whatever advancements or whatever science if you take, everything originated from one place, that is Babylon. That is what we are trying to emphasize, and that is what we are trying to make it clear, that Satan is a ruler of this world, and what now we are trying to explain is from where all these came from. And I would urge the people who are watching this to please continue watch. When you only continue to watch, you'll clearly know what prosperity I'm trying to oppose, or what is the thing of Satan, the ways of Satan which I am trying to explain. How mankind was enslaved, how Satan made all the humans as slaves, and how he torments them, how he really makes them worried about each and everything in their life when they think whatever they do is right. Whatever man, now if you see it nowadays, they say they are doing the rightful things. Whatever they say, all those things they are doing is right. And they embrace power. They embrace financial superiority. They embrace all sorts of things. And if you see the core of it, everything is designed so that you are being enslaved. And they say they repent, or afterwards, later, when they lose everything, they say God has done it. No, God never does it. God never confuses anyone. That is what we are looking. I request to continue watching the series so that this one is clear. Now we see in Adam lost his authority, and what happens there is transformation or transfer of authority from human being, from Adam, mankind, to Satan. It is just like a license, no? It's just like a ownership being transferred. The ownership of this earth is transferred to Satan. And how did Satan build his empire? How did Satan devise his government? What sort of ministry did he have? And what are the branches he had? And how was his kingdom created so that he could create a honey trap for man? How he brought in technology inside. That is what we are trying to see through the verses that is given in the Bible. We are now in this lesson to learn from where these abomination came from. We are learning how things which God hates and dislikes comes into existence. In last session we learned that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before God. We saw he was a Gibbor. Gibbor was a word used for the Nephilim. He was a giant. Septuagint says he was a giant. And verse says he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That itself shows, I've already showed you that the meaning of this verse shows that you can, because God is cognizant of all the activities. Whatever you do, He knows it. But this verse, what does it mean? It means that he did everything before God, knowing God is watching him. And he did everything without hiding and with a high hand. He knew the will of God. He knew what God has for him. And he goes against God. The name and the meaning of Nimrod itself says that rebel. So he started rebelling. So we see there a transformation from a man to a man who is against God, from a man of God who went for God and then he went against God. And he started tapping into the demonic realm and he started to become mighty and mighty, to be a giant before the Lord, a Gibbor. And after this, Adam came out, was thrown out of the Garden of Eden. What happens? Satan starts building his empire. He starts his ways of adultery, sorcery, witchcraft and everything. Everything starts to begin to grow to such extent that God sees everything, all sorts of abominations to be flourishing all throughout the earth, that he destroys everything through the flood of Noah's time. Noah alone was selected to survive this massive flood. And all the empire of Satan, all the evil, wicked ways of Satan, all those wicked people, all the unrighteous people were all destroyed. Which means the empire which Satan was slowly building was totally destroyed. And in the sense you can take it as he was wounded too. Why I say this, you'll understand once we go into this session. You'll know why I'm emphasizing on this word. And then what happens? After Noah lands in the Mount of Ararat, slowly Satan works through people. He starts to induce and infuse his wicked ways into the people. We say how Ham or Canaan was cursed. How Canaan was cursed, and we saw how Satan's ways started intruding into mankind. And then we see in Nimrod, he has transformed and now he is fully a giant before the Lord. And now Satan has chosen this Nimrod for his kingdom to be established. Now we come to the next question. How did his government take shape? And what was his agenda? Basically, how mankind was brought into slavery and how mankind was swayed away from God. The fact which we are going to see now is not extra biblical. It is biblical. We are going to analyze the words of the Bible. We are not going to look into some other book, or we are not going to say something abnormal, or we are not going to say something outside of the book, or I am not going to say any stories or something. It is a fact given in the Bible. Because God has revealed tons and tons of information in the Bible. His Bible is a revelation of everything that mankind needs to know. If you see in the Bible, in the first 10 to 11 chapters, God has said everything what has happened. He has recorded everything we need to know. You might wonder what these worldly news channels or the science channels or a scientist says, from where did they come from? Where did they originate? Is Bible quoting all those things inside the Bible? You might even heard the aliens chapter, aliens theory. They have an Anunnaki theory. They have a Nibiru theory. They have all sorts of things. Where did those originate from? Is all these theories mentioned in the Bible? I would say more than that is mentioned in the Bible. Now, the Bible, as we said, it gives lots of information. But everything is given in a condensed form, or everything is like a coded words, because in names, a great revelation is there in the names. Because in those days, in the ancient times, they don't just name someone just like now what we do. We even give names to everyone. Whatever we see or whatever we like, we give a name. We give name, that name depends upon what we like. But in those days, naming was very special. Naming a person describes more details about the person or the place. It gives more information about the character, about its ability, or about its everything, everything. It describes that place or thing or person. So what we are going to do is we are going to analyze the names given, so that what are the information which we can get, so that it clarifies many doubts and which gives a bigger revelations for us. And from this you will know how Satan has turned things to keep us into captivity by letting us know that those things gives us pleasure, happiness, self-respect, pride, authority. He makes people believe through his system that he gives all these sorts of pride, authority, superiority, happiness, pleasure, whatever names you can keep. But finally what he does is he traps everyone. He traps everyone so that we all fall into the endless pit of fire. He makes us fall into this pit of fire that it consumes us. But God says all these things in first 11 chapters, and then he shows us the way for us, the way how we can return to the old authority or to the old thing which Adam enjoyed. And the remaining of the chapters, after this 11th chapter, if you see, it gives a brief account how our Savior came to this world and how he brought, or how he redeemed us through his blood. And as we said, names describes or gives more revelation or more meaning. We'll first read Genesis chapter 10, 8 to 12 verses. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Kala, and Resen between Nineveh and Kala, that is the principal city. We have already seen verses 8 and 9 in the previous session. Now we are going to focus on the 10th verse. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Kalna in the land of Shinar. In verse 10, it says his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Kalna in the land of Shinar. First, we'll look into this land of Shinar. What does this land of Shinar tells us? We need to know what this Shinar is, because all these four kingdoms, all these four cities was built in the land of Shinar. So Shinar is a group, is a place or region which encompasses all these cities. So we need to see what the Shinar is. If we read this, if we know the reason of what this Shinar is first, then we'll get a better idea. This Shinar gives us more details about Satan's plan, and it says what is going to happen and what he has planned and how is it going to happen and the motives of all these cities. It gives a broader picture. So what is Shinar? Shinar is a region of Mesopotamia, that is a region of South Mesopotamia. Nimrod's kingdom commenced from this land. It is also the location of the Tower of Babel. Scholars assume or generally assume that Shinar was, or Shinar in the Hebrew is interpretation, or it is a commonly, this Shinar means Sumer, or commonly it refers to the land of Sumer. And I hope you all have heard about the Sumeria. We have all read about the theory of Mesopotamia. We all know how this land of Mesopotamia was a cradle of civilization of this whole of earth. And the Sumeria was a main city of Mesopotamia, house of Mesopotamia. And Bible says that it was a starting point, the Shinar. So Sumeria was a starting point, as the worldly scholars also says that all these, whatever they say, they refer to Sumeria. Sumeria, they say Sumeria, the Mesopotamia is the cradle of civilization. And if you go deeper into what developed in Mesopotamia, you'll be very much astonished, or you'll be very much interesting. It will be very much interesting to see that all these developments starts there. It says that Mesopotamia was the birthplace of these financial instruments. It says that people settled together and they learned farming, and they made waterways, and they created waterways, and they created waterways and ways, and there is water transport. They say they created wheel. They say Mesopotamia gave science to the world. It says technology was developed in Mesopotamia. That sort of Mesopotamia, Sumeria, is mentioned as Sumer, or it is mentioned as Shinar in Hebrew. And these cities of Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Kalne was in the land of Shinar. So now what does the Shinar means? We'll go by the meaning. Shinar means cast out a breach. Shinar means cast out a breach. The meaning itself lets us know that what is the purpose of this land. The purpose of this land is to cast out a breach. It means to rebel, to breach the ways of Jehovah, to breach whatever is righteous. Because the righteous ways are the ways of the God, are the one and only God, true God. It casts out a breach to the norms set by a great God. And all the impurities comes in over there. And the next meaning says that what is young or shakes or growls. That what is young or shakes or growls. So if you see, this region which Satan is developing now, this region where Satan is establishing his kingdom is young, because his earlier empire was totally shattered and totally destroyed by the flood sent through God in the times of Noah. It was destroyed. All the ways and the wicked people and the empire of Satan was totally destroyed. And after that, in Noah's period, now it is young. It is very young. And now it is shaking. It is ready to shake. And then it is growling. And the next meaning for the Shinar means tooth town or city of wit. Tooth town. It has developed tooth. What does it mean? It is ready to tear off. It is ready to bite. And it is a city of wits. Wits, mental ability. The city is full of mental ability. It is full of ability in the sense it was filled with wisdom. From there, the philosophy originates. Philosophy also, if you look into it, it shows you ways of all those philosophy. You can see it tries to soothe the people, or it tries to make things true, or it says things are right, or whatever happens is for good, or something like that. No, that is the philosophy says like that. And if you see the etymology of the word Shinar, its root says that this word expresses intense negative emotion and the experience of violence. Word construct, the etymology of Shinar, its root says the word expresses intense negative emotion and the experience of violence. So now we can come to a conclusion or understand what Shinar means. It is ready and it is young. It's growling and it's ready to shake the earth with its intelligence and mental ability to do what? To cast out a breach. It is ready to cast out a breach with all its abilities. It is young, it is growling, and it is ready to shake with all these teeth ferociously. It has its wisdom, it has its intelligence, it has all sorts of mental ability to do what? To do things which is against our Lord Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth. Now, how was this breach plotted? We come to the next question. How was this breach plotted? For this, we have to go to the 4 cities which Nimrod built. And what sort of tooth did it have? You see, it is said, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Kalna. That means the city it already existed. The beginning of his kingdom. So these cities already existed, and he took over all these cities. And he renovated it, he restores it. And then he breaches. So where did all this intelligence come from? What sort of tooth did it have? And how was the violence or the intense negative emotion spread throughout the earth? The answer to this question, for which we'll have to look into these 4 cities, that was the beginning of his kingdom: Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. So now we'll look into this meaning of these cities and find out what vital clue does those cities gives us. Now we'll first look into the Babel. We saw that Nimrod transformed into a giant. He becomes a giant. He becomes a mighty giant. He becomes a Gibor. He becomes a giant before the eyes of the Lord. That means, I already said, he knew God's plan, God's will, but he did everything before God and rebelled against God, and he started tapping into the demonic realms and turned evil. Now, this transformed Nimrod is being used by Satan to establish his government in this world, his empire, his kingdom in this world. Now, he builds the city of Babel. The Hebrew word is Babel and its Greek word is Babylon. Here we have to notice the significance of this word, because in Greek or in Hebrew, both meant to mean the same city. But later, if you see, Babylon becomes proverbially applied to any large or overbearing government. This is remarkable because Babylon, or the city of Babel, or its empire, it sat at the heart of, it was neither any important empire which was said in the Bible. Because if you see the city, the empire of Assyrian or Persia, or if you see the Roman or the Greek, all this empire was great. But Babel was never said to be the heart, or it was never said to be a great kingdom. But Babylon becomes a more proverbially used word. That is how did it come? So for that we need to know the meaning of Babel. So now the meaning of Babel, it means one. I'm not meaning it is, the meaning is one, but meaning number one is gate of God. First meaning is gate of God. That means Nimrod tapped into the demonic possession. So he started bringing in, or he started tapping into the demonic realm or demonic spiritual world, and through this Babel, or this city, or in this city, not in this city, he started tapping into the demonic realm and started opening ways for all those evil spirits to enter into the world. Because Satan needs all his armies to enter. All his armies need to enter into this earth, because in the flood he binds Jesus, God Almighty, Jehovah, he binds him and keeps him away. So this Nimrod is used by Satan to open the gates. So it's a Babel means gate of gods, all those false gods, all those sorts of evil spirits. And the next meaning is anointed and saturated. This Babel means anointed and saturated. Anointed, it anoints people. It anoints these people with evil thinking, all sorts of things which God hates. It saturates all these people. And the next meaning is through production, or through drive, or through propitiation. Propitiation. So what this does is, it produces, through production, it produces more and more of evil and wicked people. It makes people evil, makes them fall into the ways of Satan, and then it drives them into the ways, and then it teaches them propitiation. It teaches them that an act of appeasing whom? It's God's. And he teaches ways. If you have committed a sin, you can appease by doing this sorts of a ceremony or ritual. You can appease gods. Now, even now we can relate this to what is happening in this world. There is an act of appeasing. People do many appeasing jobs so that they get a relief from their sin. They do things which they think would pacify all these false gods. And then this etymology of Babel is from the Sumerian phrase Bab Eliam. This Bab Eliam means gate of God. From verb balal, to mix with oil unto saturation. And then from the prefix be, in or through, and from noun bull, produce, and the noun baal, drive, and adverb baal, own away. All these things, the meaning I've already said, and I'm just trying to describe this etymology of this word Babel. If you want to see in detail, I can explain this in detail, because I've just given certain things, because it is etymology, or it has various Hebrew words, it is a construct of various other Hebrew words, and you have to learn all those things. It will be a very boring time, no? I'll read out all those words from the various Hebrew words like Bab Eliam, Balal, Belil, Shabelul, Tebil, Tebalul, Yabal, Yubal, Ubal, Yabal, Ebal, Bul, Yobel, Tabel, Abel, Ebel, Abel, Bul, Baal, B, etc. So we cannot explain all these things, but have to know that there are many word constructs in this word. Interested people can do their research regarding this. And one thing I like to clarify here is, in Hebrew lexicon, Babel is quoted as confusion. In bracket, even if you're there, if you see, Hebrew lexicon gives the meaning as confusion, and in bracket they have written as mixing. There's a reason for this, why they have given it in bracket, because I don't want to go into those details, because trust me, this meaning of confusion, bracket mixing, comes from the Hebrew word balal. So balal, I don't want to explain it now, because it has a wonderful revelation. All I would like to say now is, right now you can ignore this meaning mixing, and to justify it, I would just say, you can watch for yourself that mixing is given in bracket. So trust me, you will be fascinated when you know the truth, or when you get the revelation about this word balal. And that also we'll talk about, or we'll discuss when we come to chapter 11. That is Babel Tower, when we discuss about demolition of Babel Tower, because this word balal comes in chapter 11. So that word is used here. But here it describes as a city. And here it is said as, if you watch it, if you can go to the Greek text analysis, they would have written as Babel. So, but they take it meaning as, they give meaning here as confusion, but confusion is also not the right meaning. But I don't want to go into detail, but trust me, you will be very much happy, or it will be fascinating and wonderful, and it will be a real feast for us when we come to know the meaning. Because our God is not a confusion God. I had this doubt because in chapter 11 it says God confused their languages. But Bible also says that God is not a God of confusion. How does God confuse? No, not at all. He is not a confusing God. And later, it was really a wonderful revelation for me to learn what is the meaning, or what God did, or what happened. You'll be very much astonished, or it'll be very fascinating for you to know that. We'll look into that when we come to the chapter 11. That will be in another 3-4 sessions from now. So right now you can just get the meaning as it's a gate of God. That city of Babel served as a gate of God. It served as a gate for all the evil spirits and false god to enter into this earth. It anointed its fellow citizens and saturated them with all the evil means and ways of Satan, and produced more and more people like them, and drive them into the things which please their gods, that is false gods, and do things which are one and only God, the true God, hates, which were against the will of God, our true God, and do all the detested things, the abomination. And the teaching of the false gods came into this world, and it taught them an act of propitiation, which these people did to pacify their false gods. In the next city we come is the city of Erech. The etymology of this is from the verb arak. It is used only once in the Bible. Its meaning is to lengthen, to prolong, and then lengthy period of healing or restoration. So what does this say? It says that it wants to lengthen the kingdom of Satan in this world. It wanted to prolong the kingdom of Satan in this world. It wanted a lengthy period of healing and restoration. Healing from what? From the wounds, which was very massive, from the destruction through the flood, which destroyed the enemies of God, which destroyed Satan's empire, which flourished in those days. God destroyed. It needed a lengthy time of restoration. It wanted to heal. It wanted to restore all things. So next we come to the city of Akkad. The meaning of this word is unclear, and the usage is only once in the Bible. Meaning, they say it perhaps may mean glow. The etymology, scholars say, is from the verb hadad. Its meaning to bake or glow. And many scholars have varied opinion about the meaning. However, the Jones Dictionary of Old Testament proper names gives it a meaning of bind. Hence, fortify a city. The Hebrew lexicon quotes its meaning as subtle. Hebrew lexicon gives its meaning as subtle. You see, Satan uses subtle ways, mysterious ways which cannot be understood ways which cannot be known or which cannot be judged by people by simple eyes, ways which are very complex, ways which are very much mysterious. He uses those sort of ways to bind, to fortify its city, to fortify its empire, to fortify its kingdom, to bake the people through his evil ways and then make them glow. To make them glow, he uses subtle ways. So why does Nimrod do all these things? What was the purpose of Satan using Nimrod to build these cities? The next city answers the question. The next city's name is Kalne. Meaning of the word is center of the world. Next meaning is finding everything. This etymology. First thing is it's the noun kal, meaning all or the whole. And then from the verb nava, to be a governmental center. Jones dictionary of, before we go, it wanted the purpose of doing all these things, all these cities, is to create a center of the world. It wants to beautify everything. It wants to become the center of the world. To be a governmental center, to hold, to rule all throughout the world. That was the purpose of using Nimrod to develop or to build these cities. Jones' Dictionary of Old Testament proper names proposes the translation of fortified dwellings. And then the NOBSE, Study Bible, translated as Fort of Anna. But it does not explain who Anna is. Anu existed in Akkadian, and then in Sumerian, An. An was a Mesopotamian sky god and a member of the triad of deities completed by Enlil and Ea, Enki. But Anu was a superior god, it says. You can see for yourself the theory of Anunnaki, the theory of Anu fits straight into this. And in other worldly scriptures or other worldly things, if you see, they portray Anu as a supreme great god, or he was the creator, they say. They say from the planet of Nibiru, some aliens came and they created mankind. And all this, I don't want to go into detail about all that, but even that is said in the Bible. Why did Satan use Nimrod to build all these things? To create a center, to create a governmental center. Nimrod builds all these cities for the purpose of Satan's desire to build a beautiful and fortified dwellings for its supreme God. That was a false god. And make it a governmental center of the world. So far, we have learned that the land of Shinar was a young. We see this, we learn this from the meaning of all these. We're just summating up. Shinar was a land which was young, which was which was full of intelligence, which was full of mental ability, which was full of tooth, which had the tooth. It was ferocious, it was growling, it is ready to shake. By what? By casting out a breach. How does this materialize? The name of the city tells us through Babel being the gate of its gods, gates of all the evil spirits to enter. The armies of Satan enters through the gate of Babylon. And then it anoints, it saturates, it keeps on producing evil people. It drives them. And it teaches them propitiation. And then it lengthens its time. It prolongs its existence. And then it prolongs and lengthens its period of restoration, healing. And then it bakes its people, it binds people together through mysterious and ununderstandable ways. Through ununderstandable mysterious ways. It binds them together. It bakes them. It creates all those peoples out. It teaches them the evil works, evil thinking, all things, unrighteous things which God hates, without them knowing that it is unrighteous. People think whatever they do is righteous. People think whatever they do is godly ways. Because it is said, by the meaning itself, Satan is using subtle ways. He is using mysterious, ununderstandable ways to deceive them. And why does he do all these things? To create a governmental center, Kalne, to create a center of the world, to create a fortified, beautiful, fortified fort, a dwelling for its God, that is Satan. Because it is the fort of its supreme God. It wants to create a governmental center of this world itself. It wants to govern this whole of this earth through this center. So this center he wants to serve as a governmental center. It wants to control every people, and through this all those ways goes on to other places, and it passes on to whole of it, travels, or it's being transported, it has been sent through all parts of this world from this part, that is a Shinar. So this gives us a clear image of what his ways were, what was his plans of Satan, and how it materialized, what was his agenda. All these things, we have a clear account of what is happening. We still have much more to learn. We have just learned one verse today, and in the next session I'll let you know another revelation which is also very interesting. Till now, these revelations, I'm sure, would have been a big understanding, or you might have heard, you might have even wondered. Things might have kept you wondering, from where did this originate? We get the meaning from this. All these Hebrew words, we get the meaning, and we will still learn more. A God is a true God. A God is a wonderful and awesome God. He has kept everything for us to know. Only thing is, everything is in a coded word. Because if we start revealing all this in detail, whatever I have said, or whatever which God has revealed to me, or the revelation which I got, is just a very, very minimum. It's a bare minimum. And there is still much more to know. Once we know all these things, we'll have a better understanding of what God has done and how Satan created his kingdom. Because we need to know that things of this world, when we say things of this world, I am not against our government, I am not against our technology, I am not against money, or I am not against prosperity. But before that, we have to learn from where all these things originated. Only when you know all these things, we'll know the true meaning. Because God says, I am not saying, God's word says all these abominations originated from Babylon. That Babylon is a word which is used to describe all these abominations as a whole. No? All these originated from the land of Shinar. So that we learn that from Mesopotamia, all technology, all this advancement, all those civilizations comes up. So who is the ruler of the earth? Satan is the ruler. How does he rule? Through the governments. How does he enslave people? Through technology. You see, the technology now supports transhumanism. Transhumanism. Elon Musk, you might have been aware of this name, Elon Musk. He now puts forth the theory that transhumanism is the next update. He wants to merge humans with machines. What he says is that we have to update ourselves with the machines, or else we may become outdated. See what are evil ways of Satan. It wants human to become a transhuman and merge with machines. Now I heard that there's a tech which gives us by which you can directly put the music in our brain. They found a technology, I've read it somewhere. So they want us to transform. So we are under the worldly government. Satan is indeed the ruler of this earth. But cheer up. Jesus has redeemed us. Jesus has redeemed us of all the sins. Whoever a Christian is, whoever believes in Jesus, whoever believes in our one and only God, you may be happy because a God has redeemed us through His blood. He has purchased us. He has provided a ways to come out of the sin. You should be happy. For that, we'll have to know what this government is. Only then you'll have a better idea what God has done. From this chapter, from Genesis till 11th chapter, it is just a condensed form of what has happened. And from 12th chapter, God starts to reveal His providence, starts to reveal His ways. That is a wonderful revelations. We'll look into that. And once we start moving further, many doubts will be cleared. Till then, please wait. Please do hear the previous sessions recording also. And please wait for the next session. God bless you. Amen.